Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here to share a bit of my journey as a student entrepreneur during my PhD. So, personally, I like telling stories as well, and I will be telling 3 stories instead, and of course try to draw generalizable lessons from them, right? So as mentioned, during my PhD candidature, I have started, run, and also sold my company as well. So hopefully my stories will be able to, change your mind about it's not, when you're a student entrepreneur, there are certain challenges that a student don't face and an entrepreneur don't face as well, right? But let me start my story just a little bit back in time, in 2012, right? I'm not too sure you guys know what this is, but this is what you call a miracle berry. It's miraculous because what it does to your taste bud is that upon ingestion of the miracle berry, whatever sour tasting item you taste will become sweet. It's amazing, it's miraculous. So 2012 was my final year in life sciences in NUS, and I was very amazed and I don't know, to me it was miraculous. Okay, then again, it's quite miraculous to a lot of people, right? I thought, hey, this might have potential in commercialization. Like if we commercialize this, it could be a big thing, right? My father was diabetic and he could not eat a lot of sweet stuff. So perhaps if he had something like a miracle berry extract or a tablet, he could still taste sweet things, right? So I was excited, and my batchmate, my course mate in life sciences was equally excited about it as well. So the two of us, we went out and talked to professors, we talked to potential investors, food company CEOs, right? This was actually over a period of maybe 2 months or so. But each time we pitched our idea, we were shot down. So the idea was to scale up the active compound in miracle berries, right? And then sell them in the tablet form. Every time we got shut down, and we got, I don't know, all kinds of things, right? And eventually, the two of us, we looked at each other and we just shrugged and called it quits, right? So that was that. Now, why I tell you this story, because 2 years later, in 2014, one day, I was walking in a health food store, right? Guess what I saw? Miracle berry extract on the shelves, right? And they were priced quite high as well. And the extract actually had quite a reputation amongst health food enthusiasts. So I told my friend about it, the one whom I ran around with for a couple of months. And he just, yeah, okay. I was stunned, right? A missed opportunity. If we had persisted a bit more, right? Things could have turned out differently. So in 2014, I told myself, if there was another opportunity to pursue entrepreneurship on some level, I would have done it. So 2012 was my last year in NUS. So 2014 was when I was working. Another chance emerged in 2016 in my first year of my PhD candidature in Nanyang Technological University. Right, 2016, right? Months prior, I took part in a hackathon, right? In a hackathon with a friend back in NUS, right? We reconnected. It's a separate friend, by the way. It's a separate friend. We took part in a hackathon. We came up with what would be the very first version of my company, Fund My Life, or as we lovingly call it, FML, for short, right? So after the hackathon, we sat on it for a couple of months until maybe early 2016. I reconnected with my friend. He's my co-founder. Now that we've sold the company, no longer so, right? And we sat down, we said, hey, this idea seems great. Shall we pursue it? He said, yeah, okay, maybe, right? A week later, he showed me the very first prototype, a developed prototype of it. And I was amazed. I was like, oh my God, he's taking it way seriously, and I should too, right? With that, okay, initially the two of us worked on it, on the tech side of things, but eventually we kind of went, we became more specialized. He continued working on the prototype, eventually the full product, and I went on to hustle, as they call it, right? Get clients, get users, and whatnot. So therein lies the difference, right? Oh, by the way, he was doing his PhD as well. So you had two PhD candidates juggling their research work and also the daily entrepreneurship work as well. So first lesson that I actually wanted to draw from this was it's no longer a school project. The mindset that you have when you approach an idea as a student entrepreneur is that it's no longer a school project. You cannot just give up on it that easily. You have to persist, pursue, and perspire. I came up with it on the spot, but yeah. Sounds catchy. Right, but anyways, yeah, so that's the thing, right? The contrast between what happened in 2014 and 2016, you really have to see it from a different way. The stakes are much higher, right? In a school project, if the project goes awry, right, you can just shrug your shoulders. Okay, let's write the report, call it a day. But as a, when you're working on it as a student entrepreneur, or rather entrepreneurship in general, it dies with you. It dies the moment you start working on it, really, right? Second story. Okay, this is the best representation of my experience during the early stages of my startup. So as mentioned, my background is in biology, correct? Now, the thing about FML is that it's actually in the finance space, personal finance space. It's a platform where you can ask personal finance questions, and we connect you to the right experts to answer it. So you might be wondering, yeah, what's a biology PhD candidate doing in the finance space? My co-founder and I didn't know either, but I'm just kidding. We feel very strongly about personal finance, to be honest. Like the two of us, we graduated. Nobody really taught us how to adult, and it's something that even now people are facing, right? You learn about, how the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but not how to file your taxes, right? You don't even know how to buy insurance and whatnot. So it's a perpetual need, and we felt very strongly about it. Anyways, so there was a bit of a background mismatch, so to speak. And what I noticed is a lot of entrepreneurs, student entrepreneurs who face, firstly, because of their youth, okay? We don't have the wrinkles, we don't have white hair. Nowadays I do because of the accumulated stress, right? But back then we were very youthful looking people. I was much thinner, but anyways, that's not the point. Right, so very memorable time in the early stages. Once we had the product out, the prototype, we had users, people were using it, we were very excited. And a natural consequence of that excitement was that, let's raise money from VCs, yeah! I tell you, it's one of the most naive things I ever thought of in my startup career, right? So we thought, okay, we have a product, we have a bit of users. I went out pitching to venture capitalists. I said, hey, we have this great thing, right? And then the first question, okay, the very first meeting I had with a VC, which I guess I shall not name, is what's your background? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, right? I said, oh, I'm a PhD candidate doing biology in NTU. Wow, you can see how the expression changed immediately. It's like, okay, why are you doing it there? Right? I'm like, yeah, because I feel very strongly about personal finance. By the way, this is the abridged version, okay? But it ended with well, I guess it was not supposed to be unpleasant, but it's just, the question was, what are you doing here? Just go back to school. And I'm like, but we're solving a big problem, right? But it's just that there was a background mismatch. This went on for a few meetings. Actually, that wasn't the first meeting. That was the first meeting. I had subsequent meetings that had that left the same, I don't know what to say, the same taste in my mouth, right? Everyone tells me to go back to school, right? Haha, lol, right? It's just not myself, but to my co-founders as well. But, yeah, I'm just reminiscing right here. No, okay, so what we did in the end was we realized without support, without all this VC money, we realized we can just survive without VC money. We decided to kind of work the angle, because right now the question was we lack that credibility, we lack the background, right? So what we did instead was, firstly, I started writing personal finance articles. We were syndicated across a few publications. On top of that, we also partnered with the second largest personal finance media in Singapore. The partnership was so good that they eventually acquired us 2 months ago, right? But when we partnered them, the whole idea was to lend credibility to our work, right? And that's very important because when you first start out as student entrepreneurs, you have a double whammy, right? Firstly, you're a student, no one will take you seriously. That's an unfortunate fact of things. Your youth might work against you. Yeah, if you look youthful, that's also another thing, right? Like you could be old but looking youthful. Anyways, but on top of that, when you first start out in your journey, you also like the credibility. It's just a small startup, right? Who believe in you? Who cares about what you do? So by partnering bigger organizations or trying to establish your own credibility in the space, you'll be able to go further than you imagine, right? So, which brings us to our second lesson, right? Relationships and partnerships give you credibility. If we went on trying to knock on VC's doors, right, they wouldn't give us the time of day. So instead, we worked on deepening our knowledge of the space. Not that the knowledge was shallow to begin with, right? It's just we needed that partnership, the credibility, the brand presence, right? So to all aspiring entrepreneurs, when you first start off, think about who you can partner with to lend your ideas more strength, okay? That's something that I share with a lot of my mentees as well, right? So, a third story that I'd like to share. This is a Google Calendar of June 2008. It's quite representative of my time. In that month, I only had just a couple of days to rest. People always ask me, Jackie, how do you manage your time? How do you manage your time? You know, you gotta do experiments in the day, right? The thing is, when we look at time, we shouldn't look at it as a single chunk. There are actually pockets of time in between that you can use. I stay in Geylang, which is on the east side of the island, and my school was on the west side of the island. Daily commute, 1.5 hours, right? So in between, I would sit down with my laptop, do my work. Some of my best work came out from that journey, right? When you're a student entrepreneur, you have to find creative ways to fit things in, right? Be it a small task, be it a small email, be it a small article, whatever, right? But more importantly, right, how I view time is actually I view it as Tetris, okay? Every unit of time is no longer linear, right? Time is something to be arranged into blocks that fit into each other. Between my experiments, I'll look at my phone and email things. Before I go to work, I'll be sitting on the train just typing away, right? After work, I'll just go straight home, right? Go straight home, during commute, do more work, eat dinner, do more work, sleep at 3, wake up at 7, so on and so forth. Don't do that, it's very damaging to your health. But the whole idea is that time, okay, to put it in a different way, when people ask me, how do you find time? It's actually the wrong question, is how do you make time? You can always make time for things. You can't find, but you can always make time for things, right? Okay? And on top of that, every little bit counts, be it a single sentence in your article. I do a lot of content marketing, so I had to write a lot of things. But every little bit counts because progress stacks. Progress stacks. It's compounding. It compounds. Your progress compounds over time, just like interest. Okay. Yes. So one of my favorite mathematical statements there is actually this right here, okay? When you find time, when you make time to fit in every little task or things, think of it as maybe 0.1% of improvement, okay? 0.1%, mathematically speaking, is 1.001, right? But if you maintain this progress, a 0.1% improvement, over a course of 365 days, it'll be, okay, it's not that clear, but it's 1.44, which means if you compare yourself at the end of the year to the start of the year, you'd be 40% better, right? It's mind-blowing because if you improve 0.1% every day, at the end of the year, you'll be 40% better, right? And that's just the minimum, okay? For those mathematically inclined, it's like, wow, okay. Personally, I find it quite awesome. So, 2 lessons from my story. Progress does stack up, right? You can be busy with your exams, you can be busy with your studies, but as long as you are better off than you were yesterday, I think that's progress enough. And generally, that's the way it should be, right? You forgo Netflix, instead you squeeze in some task into it. Who needs to watch Game of Thrones? I haven't watched Game of Thrones. Okay, I'm not some special snowflake. Okay, it's just those are the things you have to give up. There's a price to pay for everything as well. Okay, sure, you miss out on a lot of social activities and popular culture, but you end up better for it, right? It's always a price. And in short, these are the 3 lessons I wish to impart to you all as aspiring student entrepreneurs out there, right? It's not a school project. Make partnerships, make good relationships, and finally, turn everything into a blog. Thank you everyone for your time. Yeah, this is my TED Talk. Yeah.